Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of BraveHawk Talk, the UNCP Pembroke Athletics podcast. I'm your host, Bull Slavin, Assistant Athletic Director for Marketing Partnerships, and we're so glad that you're joining us for today's special episode as we help celebrate Independence Day here in Brave Nation. We first speak with Bria Hartley, Second Lieutenant in the United States Army, an alum from UNCP Softball, and then take the time to speak with Ryan Blackwell, a medically retired sailor from the United States Navy and UNCP Wrestling Alum. An exciting episode today, so sit back, turn the volume up, and we hope you enjoy today's episode. I'm here with former UNC Pembroke Softball player and coach, All-American Brea Hartley. Brea, thanks so much for joining us. How have you been doing?
Not too bad, Bull. Not too bad.
Life is dramatically different than your time here at UNC Pembroke, as you have now completely changed your path from what was once your dreams of being a college head coach at some level to now where you have entered into the United States Army. Take us through that path of what this transition period has been like for you of transitioning from college athletics into the United States Army, and have there been any similarities that you've been able to take from one to the other?
Absolutely. I definitely feel like I took many years in reverse, as in I feel like I'm a freshman athlete all over again, except my body yells at me every single day. Changing my career path was something that came later in life, something that I always dreamed that I thought I would be doing, which would be coaching at the college level or some sort of level, and completely changing that and derailing it to join the Army. What triggered me and, kind of caught my interest was that I'd always had friends in the Army and always seen service members in uniform, and I was always intrigued about what they were doing and how it was different. But I never really took that jump because what I knew of the Army or the military in general was leading. And I knew that I could always lead. I could always lead, I could always teach, I could always coach. And, of course, softball was my way of doing that. Softball was my first love, and that's what I made my decision to dedicate my life to for as long as I could remember. So in doing that, I came to Pembroke. I played. I was, able to stay back and coach a few years, and then I stepped away from Pembroke just to go back into high school athletics to coach there, and it just wasn't right. Something was just missing, and I couldn't figure out what that was. And then, upon many conversations with my friends that are involved in the military and various branches, and many conversations with a lot of people in my life, I just knew I needed to give it the jump and take that leap and figure out what it was. I know several people, it came to a shock. Me being 26 and deciding to enlist into the Army, it's a big thing because that's something that a lot of people do either straight out of college or straight out of high school. So I knew going into it that I was completely derailing my career. I was taking a leap of faith into something that I had no idea anything about, but in all, I knew that I wanted to lead. And I wanted to take my leadership skills and push them to the ultimate test. So what better way than to test them than put yourself into situations where, things are not necessarily all printed out for you. So you have to make decisions quickly, and you have to stick with those decisions, whether they be right or wrong, which is kind of like the ending part of your question was how much does it relate to college athletics or to athletics in general? And honestly, it does. I was shocked to see how much resemblance the two have, but it is almost like the same thing. So now in the position where I am, being an officer in the Army, I am now in charge of other people. So what that means is at the end of the day, all the decisions come down to me. Now, granted, there's a hierarchy, so I have people that are above me and I have people that are below me, so I have responsibilities that are based on my rank. But it also means that I am now in charge of those 18-year-old freshman kids that I was once in charge of on the field. So I might not be making a decision on whether or not it's the best decision to squeeze here in the bottom of the seventh with 2 outs, which we all know the answer to that. But this might be, should we, push forward and risk hundreds of people's lives just to protect this one other person? And those are those are things that, I knew about from reading and researching, but I didn't know about personally. And being on this journey that is very new, very fresh, I've started to see that more and more, and I'm excited to see where it takes me, for sure.
And such a unique path, and everybody has their own way of figuring out what's right for them, and going through those uncomfortable time periods and having the uncomfortable conversations to continue becoming educated and progressing your career. While you were here, you talked about continuing your education and the drive to learn. As before we got on this call, you were talking about your desire to go get your PhD during your time in the United States Army. But while you were here, you got your undergraduate degree, and then you got your master's degree moving into the graduate assistantship role here for UNC Pembroke Softball. But your playing career, your educational career at Pembroke was one that really is unmatched, one of the best and distinguished athletes that's come through UNC Pembroke Softball, All-America, played in 194 ball games here, 574 at-bats, 25 homers in your career. Really all-around, an all-around ball player, both on the field and in the classroom. Take us back to your playing career before your body ached and was yelling at you every day like you're talking about now. I know I had the exact same feeling, but take us back to that playing career, and what were some of your highlights, and what are some of your best memories from playing for UNC Pembroke Softball?
Oh my gosh. I just take it back to Katie and Carly's mom dropping us off at the track our very first day of our freshman year, and we were waving goodbye to her. And I don't know why, that just popped into my head. And it just makes me laugh and chuckle, because I see that kid. Essentially I was a kid, and 2011 was almost 10 years ago. And I look on it now and I just laugh, because I remember as a freshman I was so scared. Even though I wouldn't admit it, I was beyond scared. And not only coming from, a small private school in a small town to, Pembroke, which if you haven't ever been there, it's a small place. So that's one of the things that I enjoyed about it so much. But I came from a place where I thought I was really good. I came from a place where, everybody knew my name. And for the first time ever, people didn't know who I was. So freshman year really humbled me. I worked hard. Softball was something that I definitely cared about, but I worked hard solely on the field. Schoolwork and whatnot didn't come natural to me. I hated it, but my place of escape was the field. Sophomore year, I came back and wanted to work even more. And then we got a new coach. So, things changed. Coming in all encompassing about, changing your career path and whatnot. So when we got a new coach, I remember sitting down with some of our coaches from other programs, and, after my sophomore season, they were telling me to get out. They were telling me to leave, that Pembroke wasn't the place for me, that I deserved bigger and better things. Other schools, would offer me so much more than Pembroke could. And, I was like, no, I can't. I'm here not only for softball, but for school. And if I go anywhere else for school, then I don't think I'm going to make it. And after, there was multiple conversations that we had. And, coming in, we got Dick Christie as a new AD my freshman year. And then we got a new chancellor coming in after that. And then we got a new coach. So, there were so many things upon change. And, everybody says your college life is where you change the most. And, I came in freshman year from a teeny tiny place, no one knowing my name, to sophomore year coming back, and everybody's like, okay, we kind of know who you are now, to now junior year. We have, Dick was only a few years in at this point. Coach Bennett, that was her first year, and we hated each other. So I now come from a place where I think I'm doing great, and anybody that knows Coach Bennett and I, they know that we will always have the same conversation about how we hated each other for the first 6 months that we knew each other, and it is so true. But looking back, over that, obviously we overcame a lot of our struggles together, and Coach Bennett is one of my most favorite people in the whole wide world, and I'm extremely thankful that Pembroke was able to give me something like that. But as far as my career highs and lows, I mean, over my four-year playing career, Pembroke wasn't big for softball. People didn't come to our games. I came in to college thinking, oh, yeah, I'm going to be that cool kid going home with all the gear. I'm going to go to this big-time school. It's going to be awesome. And we get to Pembroke, and it's not that way. Nobody really likes softball. And so over my time as a player, I went from having 10 people in the stands to having 100, 200, however many people, and not just family members, not just your moms and dads out there. It was other teams around campus, local communities. Our program grew so much, and that is just one thing that continues, and that's one thing that I hope that I can put back into a program now that even though I'm affiliated, I'm no longer playing or coaching, so it's a little bit different, but, Pembroke Athletics, people, they just don't understand it. I mean, you have your big Division I sports, and everybody's like, oh, yeah, I'm going to pull for them because, they have a cool T-shirt on a website. Or, my dad and my grandpa, it's a family legacy. But at a place like Pembroke, you really know almost everybody in the stands. And if not, it's those little kids that, they only know Pembroke. And they come out and they ask you to take a picture with them and whatnot. And, I see players that have played beyond, before I did, before my years. And it wasn't that way for them. But now when they come back to games to watch or to Alumni Weekend, they are excited about the atmosphere that we have created. So I think just from my playing career, that was probably one of the highlights. I mean, we all know, I had some struggles as far as, my surgery and whatnot. So I had my setbacks. But other than that, I can still give you the at-bats just like I would think any player could. I can give you all the at-bats, all the games that, I went over in and whatnot. But overall, playing, yeah, I wouldn't, we all dream of playing in front of tens of thousands of people, or I think at least most people do. And, tens of thousands of people can feel, big or small depending on how you look at it. So I'll take playing in front of my Pembroke crowd any day of the week. And I think that's one thing that makes it so exciting to come back to. So as a player, I think that is what, I enjoyed the most. I mean, obviously I made some of my best friends in my life. You go through all of those long days and long nights and long bus rides with people, and, we definitely have our highs and lows, but, I have some of the best friends that I could have asked for. I have some great memories. I have some that are not so great, but I can tell you the good old softball field on Pembroke's campus has definitely seen the best of me and the worst of me. Now, as far as coaching goes, the staff that I was able to work with, by far, I can't judge any other program because I didn't work for them, but I grew so much in the 2 years that I was getting my master's. Most people who have never GA'd before in their life don't understand that your degree is getting paid for. You're not working for a salary, but you are expected to work. And you put in all of those hours, all of those long nights, just as you were as an athlete, except a little more is expected of you. And, I came into it, again, like a scared little kid, my first day of freshman year getting left at the track. But I took it as a chance to learn and to grow. And, that is something that I always intend on doing is, learning and growing. But as a coach, it definitely molded me for who I wanted to be because it made me, have to sink down on a level to where, I really had to figure out who I was. So it humbled me by far, but it also set me up for my future, and I don't think I quite realized it yet. So for that, by far, thankful for it.
And there's no doubt that, you came in scared, people didn't necessarily know your name, and there's no doubt in anybody's mind now who you are, and by the time you left, everybody knew who you were, both for your personality, the things you did off the field, and also for your playing career. You've represented UNC Pembroke in the most positive light possible, and now continuing that by joining the United States Army, something that all of us truly support you for, and thank you in advance for your service and representing UNC Pembroke and the United States of America as we prepare and celebrate July 4th and Independence Day this upcoming weekend. Bree, we end every interview with a fun and thought-provoking question. You can take as much time as you need to answer it, but I'm going to go ahead and send it your way so that you can take the time to think about it. Here is your question. In your opinion, what is the most beautiful place in the world, and what do you like about that place? I know because of our friendship, I know that you've done some traveling, and I know that with the United States Army, you're going to get to do some more traveling. Is there a specific place that sticks out to you that you think is the most beautiful place in the world, and what is something that sticks out about that place that makes you think that?
Oh, goodness. I have traveled. You're correct, and I've seen some pretty awesome things. And there are places that I do wish to go that I've yet to be, and I know that they have some pretty awesome places. But I'll probably go with some places that I've visited and some places that are very near and dear to me. Like I said before, I came from a very small town, and I grew up on the lake. So for those that don't know me, don't know that I like to fish as much as I do. But I think one of the most beautiful places to me where I can go and always kind of reset myself when all becomes a little too much sometimes. And I can just go out there and, take a minute for me, soak it all in, and just sit back. And, nobody else is out there because, believe it or not, people are not on the lake at all hours of the day. But, I have to say High Rock Lake. And I say that because I can get on the boat and drive about, 300 yards, and I'm out in the middle of some open water. And a sunset out there is one that you cannot beat. But I say that just because I can't tell you the countless of times, a day is just, we've all had one of those rough days in the office, and we just need to, get away from everybody for a little bit. So I'm not saying that I haven't seen some beautiful places, because out of all the places I've traveled, I can probably tell you on multiple hands and toes that, places are amazing and jaw-dropping. But a sunset on High Rock, given any day of the week, I would take definitely for sure. And I think that's just because of how much it means to me. It's home. Everybody loves home. Or everybody loves a place that makes them feel like home. And that is definitely by far one of those.
And I don't think anybody disagrees with that. And home is a special place wherever it may be for everyone and anyone. Everybody has a different view of what home is. Home for you, ability to get out on the water. So, Bree,
absolutely,
I really appreciate you taking the time to speak with us. Thank you again for your service, and thank you for representing UNC Pembroke in the way that you have. You're always welcome back here on Pembroke's campus. We're always glad to see you back in Brave Nation, as your picture still hangs on the wall outside the UNCP softball office. For anybody that is still on campus or is returning back to campus, make sure you check that out to see Bree in her prime time UNCP softball playing days up on the wall outside the UNCP softball office suite. Bree, again, thanks so much for joining us. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Bull.
Once again, a special thanks to Bria Hartley for joining us on today's episode of BraveHawk Talk, the UNC Pembroke Athletics podcast. Looking for the perfect gear to get ready for the UNCP Athletics fall season? Make sure to visit shopuncpbraves.com. That's shopuncpbraves.com for all of your official athletics gear. Get them customized so that it fits your needs for the upcoming 2020-2021 athletics season. Upcoming next, a very special guest, Ryan Blackwell, UNCP Wrestling Alum, medically retired sailor from the United States Navy. Ryan discusses his experience in Pensacola, Florida, along with much more right here on BraveHawk Talk, the UNC Pembroke Athletics podcast. So once again, sit back, turn the volume up, and enjoy. We're back with former UNCP wrestler Ryan Blackwell and medically retired sailor from the United States Navy. Ryan, thanks so much for joining us today. You've had a wild ride in the past year, and we're so excited that you're joining us today on BraveHawk Talk. how has everything been going during this pandemic and really in life in general?
Hey, Bull, I appreciate you guys having me on and letting me kind of share my story, and especially with it being 4th of July and everything. So I appreciate that. Thanks to UNCP also for all the support, and especially the UNCP alumni for the story they just put out on me. I really appreciate that, and doesn't go unnoticed. So I just want to make that clear first before I get going about myself. So as far as what I've been doing now, I'm medically retired out of the Navy just recently, and I'm pursuing a career public speaking. Currently working on some other things behind the scene for everybody to look forward to here in the future. My recovery's been going well. Had my last surgery 3 months ago. Everything seems to be on the up and up, and just staying positive and taking it one day at a time.
And Ryan, we'll jump right into it. For everybody that doesn't know, Ryan Blackwell recently received the Purple Heart along with a couple other distinguished awards from the United States Navy and Marine Corps, thanks to his service back on December 6, 2019 at the Pensacola Air Station. Ryan, we'll jump right into it. We'll let you go ahead and tell your story and let all of our listeners kind of understand why you're medically retired at how young, healthy guy you were coming from UNCP Wrestling here, and what happened, and kind of where you are now in your life, and then we'll work backwards from there and talk into your life as a UNCP wrestler.
Perfect. All right. So, being medically retired from the Navy at 28 years old, I only had 2 years and 11 months of service under my belt. And then I have a college degree, and I went the enlisted route, so all this might bring a question mark to it, I'm sure, in a lot of people's brains. So it's great that I can actually explain some things and maybe help understand the narrative of what's happened. So just to kind of kick things off, just a little bit about my Navy career. Upon my graduation from UNCP, I just felt compelled to kind of still serve and push myself and, exceed those limits that you set and just find a better version of me. So I had went to a Navy recruiter, and I had saw that they were offering these challenge programs, these warrior challenge programs, and they're part of the Naval Special Warfare Command, and you have to do physical screening tests to get a contract in order to go and see what you're made of and perform in some of the most bizarre conditions possible, to simulate everything to pull the man out of you, the best out of you, in the worst of conditions. And so I went down that road. So I enlisted because I wanted the job role of the enlisted personnel within that community. And throughout my training, I had ended up breaking my wrist. So I came to Pensacola, Florida, to get a surgery on my hand, and it kind of sidelined me for a while in the military because I had a wrist fusion to where they had to fuse some of my bones in my wrist together because they were just in bad condition, and they had to remove some and kind of pretty much rebuild my wrist. So in the meantime of me being in Pensacola, Florida, and going through my first surgery, that was back in 2018, I was put on a medical hold and ended up having to go through a medical board where it was just going through to see if I was even physically capable as far as my conditions with my wrist and whatnot, that if the Navy was still going to keep me on board. So I was going down that road, and during that process, it come December, within the mix of that, I got put into a job role of just working in the International Military Training Office. So I was working with all the international flight students. Pensacola, Florida is a hub for naval aviation. And so you have everybody, NATO countries, and you have other countries coming. They're going through our flight program as well, and we're teaching them how to be the best pilots world has. So I'm working with Italians, Germans, like I said, a lot of NATOs, the Saudi governments and different branches of their military. And I did that for 2 years, and it was within doing that, I also was a wrestling coach in the community too. So I pretty much had things to keep me occupied and still give back and have that sense of giving back and still creating an impact. And I remember December 5th, Thursday, I was at my high school wrestling practice, and God's first tournament was that Friday, and I was talking to them, giving them a good speech about how, hey, keep fighting in these matches.'re never out of the fight, no matter what. If you look at that scoreboard and you're down, you're still in it. Just keep fighting, keep plugging away. Don't stop till the whistle blows. Wrestle through everything. And it was just kind of ironic that I gave him that speech on that Thursday, and that Friday morning I was planning on just going to work. And typical Friday was all the Saudi students would show up, and I'd check them in and make sure everything was good to go, and they'd go about their business. And I was pretty much going to work a half a day, and I was going to meet up with the wrestling team and coach them on their first tournament of the weekend. So that's how pretty much my schedule went that day, and as far as what I had planned. And then I got to work Friday morning, 5:30, about 6:30 in the morning is kind of when things started to go. I'm in my office, and I see the soon-to-be shooter. He walks by my office and just gives me a smile. My door's open. Size of my office is about 14 by 14. It's not that big. 14 foot by 14 foot. It's not that big. I had my door open. I had two other of my colleagues in my office with me, and the soon-to-be shooter walks by and he continues on the hall, and think nothing of it. And not minutes after that, I hear the first gunshot sound throughout the building. Kind of startled. I got up from my desk, and I'm looking. Everybody in the office is looking at me as well. And you're taking for a second. I knew what it was, but you don't know what it is. You think somebody drops a stack of books or whatnot, but then you hear more, and there's more, and then you start hearing the commotion, the chaos. And at that point, I had told the people in my office, one of the guys I was closest to the door, I told him to close the door, turn off the lights, take cover. He got behind the desk, and there was a female in the office with me. I told her to take cover behind the desk. She took cover. I got in front of her. I looked at her. I told her, call 911 and alert that there's an active shooter right now. And I got on my phone, and I called my supervisor, who was on his way to work that day, and he was usually gets in around the time of this all happening. I called him on the phone. I told him, said, sir, he's a captain of the United States Marine Corps. I said, sir, don't enter the building. There's an active shooter right now. And the words that came out of his mouth was, get out of there. And as soon as he said that, I got shot in my arm. And I just turned. The shooter came up. The door was a wooden door that had, it was glass paned up. So I was half wood and the rest was glass up. And the shooter was on the other side of the door. And he shot out the window first. And while I was on the call, he shot at me, and he hit me in my arm. Phone dropped, and right after that, it was like slamming on the brakes and throwing your arm over to hold the passenger back. I just rotated counterclockwise to where the female was at, and I just I shielded her from the gunshots that came in, and I got shot 5 more times, and one of the rounds going through me hit her in the calf, and then the shooting still continued, and then it stopped. I had picked up the phone that was still on the call. I just heard, Blackwell, you still there? Blackwell, you still there? So, yes, sir, I'm still here. I did a quick visual glance. I looked at the female. She took a flesh wound on the leg. I looked at the other gentleman that was in the office. He wasn't in that great of shape, I could tell. And then I glanced at the door, and I saw no shooter, and I just told him, I said, we've all been hit. I said, we need to get to a hospital. I'm getting us out of here. I'll call you back. And I hung up the phone, and I got up, and I ran to a window. And I removed the AC unit from the window, and I have my back to the door. I don't know if the shooter's there. I don't know if he's real. I don't know what's going on. I just knew that our only hope was miles down the road at a trauma center, and I had to get us out of that building. So I kicked out. I pulled the AC unit out, kicked out of the way, and I'm struggling to push this window because at that time the round I took in my arm, it completely paralyzed my arm where I couldn't even use my arm, my right arm, and I'm right-handed. So I'm using the left hand. I'm trying to push through this window. And I'm pushing for a good couple seconds. It's painted shut, and I can't get it up. And I start yelling at the other two in my office, and they get up, and they come help me with this window, and we get it up. And I exit out the building first, and I help them too. They get out. And then the female, she goes her separate way, and then me and the male that was in the office, we continue. We run across this little grass to a building on the other side of the street, and I go into this building. And I'm in there, and I'm telling everybody, get away from the windows, lock the door, I can shoot her. And I'm just drenched. It's just there's a lot going on right now. Fight was just the only thing going, that fight or flight mode, and it was just the will to live. So once we got there, the first thing I did, I got on my phone, I called my wife, and I told her what had happened. I told her to call the family, let them know what happened. And I said, I'm getting myself to the hospital, and I'll call you. And from there, I started walking, trying to find the back of this building. And at that time, I got a little lightheaded, so I had to sit down. I was losing a lot of blood in my arm and my legs and everything. And I took my belt off, and I made a tourniquet on my arm. And then I elevated my arm on the top of my head and put the belt around the back of my neck as like a lever, so I could pull real hard down to cinch it pretty tight. And it stopped the bleeding, and it gave me almost like an adrenaline boost. And I knew that I had to get going. So I got back on the phone with my captain that I had originally called, and he was already en route to come get me without me knowing where I was at. And I told him where I was at, and then he ended up showing up like seconds. He was a helicopter pilot, so he knows how to get somewhere on time. And he got there, and we got out the back of the building. We put the one guy, he had some pretty bad damage to his leg. We put him in the back seat of the truck, and I went around to the passenger seat, and we're riding down the road. And then that's when my captain, he called 911 and let them know where we were going. And they said that the ambulance was at the front gate. And so we're going through the base, and it's just locked down. Everything's on lockdown. It's just traffic stopped. Roads are stopped up. And he drove that truck like he was flying a helicopter. I'm telling you, we were all over the place, but we got to where we needed to go, and it was quick. And it did not mean no worries to me. We hit every bump, and it didn't matter. I knew we had to get to where help was at. So we got up to the front. And once we got up to the front, there was no ambulance yet because of how locked down traffic was. The only thing up front was some ambulance, with some police cars. There's a bunch of police cruisers up front. So we get out of the car. They take the guy out the back of the truck. They put him in the bed of the truck. They start working on him. I get out of the truck, and I walk around the front. I start talking to police officers, and I'm telling them, I said, we got to get to a hospital now. And they're like, 10 minutes, ambulance 10 minutes out. And I was like, look, we got to go now. And then the cop, his name's Robert Green with the Escambia County Sheriff's Department. He said, you ain't dying in my hands. He's like, you get in the back of my car. So I got in the back seat of his car. And from there, he went to transfer me to the hospital. When I got in the back of his car, there was another police officer that had gotten shot in the leg in the back of his car, and his leg was in pretty bad shape too, and it was bleeding pretty good. So once I entered the back of the car, I stuck my elbow in his leg and put all my weight on it to stop his leg up. And I told him, I said, pull on my belt to cinch my arm up, and we did that the whole way to the trauma center, to the hospital. And then once we got to the hospital, it was like right before we pulled in, I had called my dad, and I told him where I was at and everything. And then when we pulled in, I got out of the church, got out, and I walked right into the hospital. And then I got right into the hospital. And from there, they take you and try to fix you up and everything. And I went to ICU, and I had to get emergency surgeries. I actually sustained 6 gunshot wounds. Like I said earlier, I only thought I had gotten hit twice. One, I felt a lot of pressure in my legs, so I thought I got hit in my arm and my leg. But in reality, I got hit in my arm. I got took one off the side of my rib cage on the right side, 2 in my back, 1 an inch from my spine, another one about 6 inches from my spine on each side of my body. Where one went, it came out the inside of my thigh. And then the other one that went in my back hit my pelvis and came out my hip. And then I had one hit me in the calf and then one in the left foot, right calf of my foot. So I had some issues that I wasn't aware of. And once we got to the hospital, once they started going, they told me that I was going to have to go get a surgery, and I was going to have a colostomy bag, and I was not aware what a colostomy bag was, and they explained it to me right before my surgery and everything, and they said there might be a chance we can reverse it, but we don't know. We got to see what we're dealing with once we get in there, and then so for the next 4 months of my life, I had a colostomy bag, and just recently, March 31st, I had a reversal surgery done, so I no longer had the colostomy. I'm just dealing with the my hand's now partially paralyzed because the bullet came in and it hit my median nerve, and it didn't fully sever it, but it severed part of it to where like my thumb, pointer finger, middle finger, and part of my ring finger are now numb, but it's starting to kick back a little bit. So the timeline of the events was the shooting occurred in my office at 6:46 in the morning, Central Time, and I got to the hospital at 7:13. So it pretty much took 27 minutes to get to the hospital, kind of with like ready, set, go. So I mean, it was a testament for me for just the will to live and just kind of defying the odds and dictating an outcome that every card stacked against you. And it just kind of is ironic, like I stated in the beginning, where the day before I was just talking with my wrestling team how you're never out of the fight and to keep fighting no matter what. And then I faced that reality the very next morning. So it's been like you said, it's been a wild year.
No doubt. And, you know, the adversity that you face, and you talked about it from the Warrior Challenge program. I mean, just quick details for everybody listening at the Pensacola base. You wound up having 8 people wounded, including yourself, and 3 killed in essentially action that day. But you talk about the Warrior Challenge program. You wanted the adversity. No doubt you thought you would experience that on foreign soil and wound up experiencing it here at home. But did that program and kind of that brave, tough mentality that Coach OT brings here to UNCP Wrestling, clearly you live with that every single day and now even more so, but where did that come into play for you and that mindset of overcoming adversity like you're talking about with your high school wrestlers, continuing to give back to the community? How does all that culminate together of that brave, tough mentality and for United States Navy?
Well, I think with that brave, tough mentality, some guys say it, but don't know really what it means. And to me, what being brave, tough means, I mean, that's a 2-part word, and we can break down both parts of that word. Being brave is one of them things. And being brave, even when you're scared and you know there's a job to be done, and maybe you're in fear for your life, like the shooting I was in, and there's a job to be done. And sometimes having some courage or just being brave and stepping out there and putting yourself out there, you don't know what the outcome's going to be, but that's part of that. And then the toughness aspect of that whole deal right there. You're brave. You put yourself in those positions. You know you got to step up and get the job done. And you're tough to where you know all those hours of training or all that mental training or all those simulations of whatever that you've gone through, it created a shell of toughness around you and your mind, and you're calloused, and you know that you can rely on your training. So I've had so much training throughout my life with just wrestling, and then, of course, once I wrestled in at the collegiate level, especially under the helm of Jamie Gibbs and then O.T. Johnson, it changed me from a young boy to a young man before I left Pembroke, to just that mindset of, you know, showing up on time, getting the job done. The sport of wrestling, it's all on you. It's on the individual. Nobody can make excuses. You can't make an excuse for why you lost the match and all that. You got to hold yourself accountable. You got to be ready no matter what when your number's called, because you don't know if the guy's going to be sick or not on weight, and you got to step in there and fill that position. So playing those roles throughout my life and just living my life, you know, and how my life has went, especially with the sport of wrestling, and then you kind of add on that Warrior Challenge program and some of the situations I went through there, and just different deals where you're just making sure that everybody's accounted for, and it might be a little chaos going on or whatever the case may be. All that showed that day. All my training that I've done my whole life with wrestling and my military training, it all came to light that day. And I was in fear for my life. I'm not going to lie, but at the end of the day, I couldn't let that fear stop me from performing my job, that I took the oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States from both foreign and domestic enemies. And this was just one of those situations, and it was my job, and I had to step up and do my job. Regardless of the conditions I was under, I still had a job to get done.
And every year, you know, you talk about your training, you continue to get better, and that was the case, you know, even overcoming adversity. Here at UNC Pembroke, you wound up winning a career-best 16 matches on the mat in your senior season, and you actually won your first match at home as a freshman, so not to be outdone by your senior year. Your first match at home as a freshman was a pin in just under 37 seconds, and that's basically getting it done on the mat, Ryan. So I don't know if you still look back at those moments of your wrestling career, but as you mentioned, all the training kind of culminating, and now wrestling's continue to be a big part of your life, and sports continue to be a big part of your life as you've gotten to give back to the local high school community down in Pensacola, and now you're looking to continue giving back by sharing your story. And as more comes out about that, we'll definitely be happy to share it with UNCP Wrestling and our fans here in Brave Nation as well. But Ryan, through your service and now everything you've experienced, all the adversity with the wrist fusion, and then obviously now with all the gunshot wounds that you're healing from and recovering from, does Independence Day and July 4th take on a new meaning for you?
It does. I can tell you where these holidays, because it's kind of, to me, this has been a wild roller coaster. December, now I was in the hospital and in and out and doing a lot of doctor's appointments. So the world started having, the things that are going on now in society, and I wasn't really paying attention to much. I'm more worried about my recovery, and then you start catching wind of everything going on and how, it's a lot of chaos. And it was Memorial Day, and I just felt this Memorial Day, I got my reversal surgery March 31st, and so you can do the math between there. I felt the need. So a Murph workout is what you do on Memorial Day to pay respect to those that have paid the ultimate sacrifice. And I just could not live with myself if I didn't pay my dues to those guys. And I just felt compelled. So that Memorial Day, it meant more to me than any Memorial Day has ever meant in my life, because I knew that could have been a day for me, because some things go an inch this way or whatever. It's a different outcome. And so I put on my 20-pound weight vest and I knocked out a Murph. I had to do an adaptive one, and I got every rep in. I did everything. So what a Murph is, it's a mile run. It's 100 pull-ups, 200 push-ups, 300 squats, and a mile run, all with time and with 20-pound weight vest on. So I did it, felt great, and so now we're rolling in the 4th of July weekend. I still have that same sense of pride and love for my country, and I know that what I did, I would do it again every day of the week if I had to, because I know that there's a lot of things going on in this world, but the one thing that's always going to stand true to me is my love for my country, and nobody's going to take that away from me. And this 4th of July, it's one of the things that it holds more weight to me now than it has ever before.
And you've obviously received some of the highest honors, and you got the experience of getting pinned. What was that experience like for you? And I know that Military Appreciation Night is huge here for UNCP football and UNCP soccer with a lot of their recruits coming from the Jacksonville area. And then baseball and softball hold Hero Day, honoring United States military and local first responders as well, who obviously helped you out, with the officer taking you to the hospital there as well. What was that feeling like for you? Just real briefly, are there any emotions that come back? And pride, obviously you got married while in Florida as well, and she's going through a lot of this with you. It's not a fight you're fighting alone. So what has all that been like for you, culminating in just a real quick answer?
Yeah, so I'll start with the award ceremony, and I'll lead into just my marriage and just how my wife Carly has really stepped up. I never imagined anybody to ever have to be put in the role that she got put into, and I'll definitely shed light on that. But so the award ceremony, it's kind of this is a very unique situation. I'm about to explain you what the award ceremony is. So I had a private ceremony on base with all the COVID restrictions. My family was able to come, and I had personnel from the base, and my commanding officer of my command, he pinned my medals on me. I received the Purple Heart, and I also received the Navy and Marine Corps medal, which is the highest non-combat medal you can receive. For heroism, I received that. So my commanding officer pinned those medals on my uniform. 2 weeks later, he died in a plane crash. So his last award ceremony, it's Captain Ben Singer, he's the 06. His last award ceremony was pinning those medals on my uniform. So they hold a lot of weight and value to me now, especially after I had spoke with the man a week prior to his death. And then I got a phone call the week after and said that him and another commander were flying, and they had had issues with their aircraft, and it had a hard impact, and they didn't survive. So that's another sin of adversity that I was handed, throughout this process. And to me, it just kind of really put into perspective how valuable life is and how quick something can be taken away. And you can take things for granted and not really know that. And so I'm not saying to live your life walking on eggshells, but live your life with a heart of love and just kind of doing the right thing and just cherishing those moments you have with those people that mean the most to you. Which leads me with my wife. We got married Pi Day, so March 14th, 2019. And it's been uphill ever since. I mean, she's like my rock. She's a black belt in Taekwondo, so go figure, right? There was an instant click with my wrestling background and everything. And so once I got home from the hospital, I had a colostomy bag, and my hand was really in bad shape. My right arm, and it was partially paralyzed. And I'm right-handed, and I couldn't take care of myself, and she took care of me. And we were newlyweds, and she did not know what. She nobody would ever thought that you would have to be put in this position, and she didn't turn a blind eye to anything. She's been there for me every step of the way, and that's just a testament to her as a human being too. That's just kind of what I'm saying is just how valuable life is. And I mean, there's people there that love you and are going to do whatever they can for you, and you just got to make sure the love goes both ways. And that's kind of, and I guess in a brief, that's a lot of what answer to your questions right there.
Yeah, no, and I think that's great. And we two more questions for you. One that just popped into my mind, and then we always end every interview with what is meant to be a fun and thought-provoking question. But before that, is there any piece of advice with how much you've gone through adversity and kind of that loving from the heart and living every day like that? Is there one piece of advice that you would give to all of our fans in Brave Nation?
Yeah, definitely. So I've been doing a lot of writing on my behalf, and it's one of the things that's really been sticking to me. And it's like when I was competing and I was doing different things of that nature, I had to, and I learned this from Mike Williams. He would always have these phrases he would say before he wrestled. There's this it's just like stay hungry, stay humble, get the job done, or just different things to just make you go into competitive mode. And so throughout my recovery, just these words that kept chiming in my head because it's been a roller coaster of emotions. It's just been beat yesterday, beat yesterday, beat yesterday. That's just kind of been my motivating words. It's just that I could tell myself it's just beat yesterday, beat yesterday. And so I'm going to share that with you and everything, and I'll let you guys kind of hear what I have to say about and explain that to you beat yesterday. Maybe it'll have an impact with somebody who hears this. So here we go. Every day I was struggling with trying to beat the events and dictate a different outcome. The constant self-criticization, picking apart every detail, but yet nothing changed. Beating the day before was an obsession, the wrong obsession, until I changed my perspective. That same anger and aggression to change the is what it is became a motivation to make an impact. With no intent on slowing down, beat yesterday would be the inner voice that chimed, making each day count, never becoming complacent on yesterday's achievements or disappointments, self-accountability to do what's right, and remember the sacrifices made. Yesterday was a good day, was an easy day. We have to beat yesterday. Today, rent's due. Regardless of your occupation, profession, hobby, athletic background, size, shape, and smell, it doesn't matter. The reality is we're all on borrowed time. That 24 hours isn't free. And for you not to take advantage of that time you have here on this earth to make something and have an impact in the slightest fashion, it's a sacrifice to gift that so many not here would gladly take your place. I don't care if it's serving your country or putting a shopping cart back in the return area. Do the right thing, be a good person, don't settle for average, and beat yesterday. So that's kind of advice to all the listeners on UNCP and Brave Nation and everything associated with the community there. Just beat yesterday, no matter what. Stay focused, stay grinding, and just keep plugging one step at a time.
And that's pretty powerful, Ryan, and no doubt, and something I definitely think that we'll use with our athletes, and maybe have you come back and get the chance to speak with some of them as well with your background here at Pembroke. But like I said, one final thought-provoking question, meant to be fun, but you can take as much time as you need to answer it, although with how quick you are on your feet, I don't think this one will take you much time at all. If they made a movie of your life, what would the title be, and what would it be? Would it be a drama, comedy, musical, etc., action movie? What would the title be, and then what type of movie would it be?
I would call it Beat Yesterday. And that just kind of sums up everything. I mean, it would be a story of overcoming. And overcoming didn't just happen December 6th, and it just doesn't continue to today. It happened well before that. I've gone through multiple surgeries. I tore my labrum while I was wrestling in college. I came into UNCP with a broken hand that I just had surgery on. So I've had extensive adversity throughout my life, and there's been a lot of highs and a lot of lows. But the one thing that always sticks to me is what Jamie Gibbs, my head wrestling coach at UNCP that recruited me, told me. He said, "Don't let your highs get you too high. Don't let your lows get you too low." And just keeping that mentality kind of helps keep everything in perspective too. So the movie Beat Yesterday, awesome. I'm thinking I might have to get Marky Mark to play me. I don't know. Some people, it might seem like a little drama, soap opera, action-packed, heart-jerking, wild roller coaster ride, best-selling movie, probably to hit the blockbuster. That's kind of what I'm envisioning. You know what I'm saying? So,
It's all sounding pretty good to me. And if you need help on the script, definitely let me know. I'm all in on it here. But yeah, no. Paul O'Neill, my head coach playing baseball here is the same thing. Don't get too high. Don't get too low. Shoot for an even keel in the heat of the moment type thing so that you can control your emotions and clearly evaluate the situation. And I think that holds true. And Beat Yesterday, you got to explain it. And, it's a perfect movie title, no doubt. Ryan, thank you so much for your service, and thank you for joining us here today on BraveHawk Talk. I really appreciate it. Happy 4th of July and Independence Day. And, we wish you well and a continued recovery, or on your path to recovery, and we hope to see you and your wife back in Brave Nation soon, maybe even for an upcoming Military Appreciation Night event. I think it would be very apropos. But once again, Ryan, thanks so much for joining us today on BraveHawk Talk.
Hey, boy, I appreciate it, and thank you, UNCP, Brave Nation, O.T. Johnson, and everybody there. I appreciate the love and support I've felt over these last 7-8 months, and I felt years prior during my time there. And, one of my favorite teachers, I got to give him a shout-out to, Dr. Bowles. I always think about that guy, too, hoping things are well with him and all you guys. So there's a lot of love in my heart for UNCP, and I can't wait to come see you guys.
Once again, a special thanks to Ryan Blackwell, medically retired sailor from the United States Navy and UNCP Wrestling Alum, along with Brea Hartley from UNCP Softball and currently serving in the United States Army. Thank you both for their service, and thank you to all of our military members who continue to serve and protect our freedom here in the United States of America as we look forward to celebrating Independence Day this weekend. Once again, everyone, thanks so much for joining us on BraveHawk Talk, the UNC Pembroke Athletics podcast. Make sure to follow us on social media. That's at UNCP_sports on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, and TikTok as well. And while you're at it, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube page to catch all the episodes of BraveHawk Talk. And one final PSA, as we look forward to athletics this fall, we need your help in bringing athletics back. We need you to continue to wear your mask to protect not only yourself but those around you so that we can have athletics this upcoming 2020-2021 athletic season. Once again, everyone, thanks so much for tuning in. Stay safe, and we'll talk to you next time.